Hello, everyone. Welcome in to my crochet class. Hello, hello. Let's see here. All right, guys. So I'm only going to be on here for about an hour just to show you a couple, basic stitches. This is a beginner-friendly crochet class. So if you have some yarn already, or you're trying to learn how to kind of, you know, crochet a little bit, this is going to be beginner-friendly. So go ahead and grab your yarn of choice, your hook of choice. One thing I will say when you are choosing the type of yarn that you are going to have is to make sure you know the sizing. So for example, like this yarn here, every yarn has what the weight of the yarn is as long as the recommended hook size. So for example, this is a weight 4 and it's recommending 5.5. I'm using a J hook of 5.75, which is what I normally use for weight 4 yarns. But again, if you're using some kind of bulky yarn like this one calls for a size 9 hook, and it's a 5 weight yarn. So just know the hook size, be conscious of that, because if you're using a hook that's smaller than what the yarn is recommending, your work might be a little bit tighter and it might be a little bit harder to kind of crochet through. So once you get that together, we're gonna make a simple slip knot. So I like to wrap it around 2 fingers, and then from here I usually put the yarn between the first and the third finger and just kind of pull it through here. So you see here, I pull it through and I tighten that way, and then that's how I make my slip knot. You can make a slip knot any other kind of way. Some people like to use a hook. I just find that's easier for me, just to wrap it around, slip it through, and pull through. And then I tighten it onto the hook size that I want here. And then next, if you need to learn how to chain here, so right here you already have one your slip knot already on your hook here. So just to chain, you wrap it around and pull through, and you have your chain. So anytime you're starting your work, again, this is very beginner friendly. You wrap around, pull through, and you have a chain. And you can always tell the top of the chain by these little V's right here. So this is a V and that's a V. So 1, 2 chains so far have been done. Call through, chain again. And it's very important, as well, as the chain gets wider, you want to control your tension and make sure it's even. So you want to use your thumb and your middle finger to hold at least the first chain as long as you can, to make sure that each chain is as even as possible. And once you are finding that it's a little bit longer than you're comfortable than holding, then I always grab it from the beginning of where I'm at, and then I start chaining again. So I keep chaining and chaining and chaining until I'm comfortable. And then I grab it again to control that tension. And you see how these are even now? That's how you can control the tension of your chain, just by holding the ones. Welcome in. Thank you for the heart me rocks. Thank you for liking the live. We just started, so I went through how to do a slip knot and how to chain, which I already know you got this. But yes, very, very in the beginning here. So depending on what kind of work you're doing, that's how you can count your chains. So one thing that's also important, as well, as when you are doing your work here, this chain is marked as the last one. So let's say you have a work that calls for 23 chains plus 1. When it has that plus 1 on there, that means you do the 23, you hold it here, and then you do one more. And when you switch off, you're going to crochet into this chain, not this one. That makes sense. I'm going to say that again. So let's say your work calls for 23 plus 1, right? So realistically 24. So when we do our 23, I'm going to take this one out again. Now this isn't 23 chains, I'm just using 23 as an example, guys, okay? So let's say we do our 23 chains and then we do our plus 1. When we turn our work to start working into the next row of the project, we're not going to go into this one. We're going to go into this one right here. And that's where I think when you're reading patterns or going through, some people kind of get mixed up. They go right into that very first one. No, that chain one is just to give you a turning space to make your work a little bit more polished. But you really go into that second to last from the hook there. So let's go back. I'm gonna show you guys just a very, very, very basic stitches here. So we're gonna go ahead. Remember, we're gonna make our slip knot. And if you're following along with me, go ahead and chain 12. So we wrap around the hook, pull through the loop. That's 1, 2, 3. Thank you for the heart puffs. 4, wrap around, pull through. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Okay, so now we have 12 even chains here. So I'm gonna have you guys chain 1 to make that a turning chain. So we're gonna chain 1. And there's a couple ways that a lot of people like to start their second row. Some people like to go in these loops here. Lately, I've been liking to go in the back loop. So if you turn, you see this side, it kind of has a V, like a braid on this side. And then on the back side, you see it kind of has these little middle bumps. I found that going into these little bumps, it helps with the work when you're doing like a work that has edging, or if you have to, kind of put crochets on the outside of it, it makes it so much more polished and straight, in my personal opinion. So I've been doing it that way lately. Hello, Purple Gemini, how are you? Welcome in. So again, this is, like I said, it's very much, crochet is a craft that you make your own. Not one person knows how to crochet the best. Like, you make it to how you want to do it. So for welcome in, welcome in. Yes, so if you want to go into this first one, you can do that. But for the purposes of just, how I like to do things, I'm going to actually go into this back loop here. So I'm going to turn it. And again, we're not doing this very first one. We're going to do this second one here. So now I'm going to show you guys how to do a simple, thank you for the follow, a simple single crochet. So before you go in, you should have one on your hook already. And you find the loop that you want to put it through. Now, I tend to crochet a little tighter, so if yours is loose, that's fine, but that's why I tend to size up when I do my crochet hooks, because, like I said, I crochet tight. In this first chain, there we go. So you stick it through and you have 2 on there. Now you use the yarn to wrap around the hook. You pull through that first loop. Now you should have 2 loops on the hook. Wrap the yarn around again, and you pull through 2, and that is what we call a single crochet. So anytime you see SC on the screen or SC on a pattern, they're talking about single crochet. That's how you do that. So basically, you're just wrapping around and pulling through once on the hook. Thank you for joining, Lakisa. So we're going to do that again. Find your next little loop that you want to put this through, stick it through, wrap around, pull through 1, wrap it around, pull through 2. Okay, and I'm going to do this again for the full row, and I will meet you guys at the end. If you guys have any questions on how to do this, feel free to ask them in the I keep wanting to say in the chat, but go ahead and ask away. Because remember, this is a beginner-friendly class, and I am going to be doing these every Sunday. So it's not going to be where every Sunday we're learning the same thing. I'm building off of today. So today is the very first beginner's class. Next week, we're going to be, doing things and more techniques and learning more patterns as we go. So if you're following along, make sure you guys are registered to these events for the future. That way you get the notifications of when they start. Thank you so much for following. Thank you, thank you. Welcome in, Bonique. All right, I'm gonna go through, do this full row. Okay, go in, pull through 2, pull 1, pull through 2, pull 1, pull through 2. Gotta pull my yarn, sorry. I probably should have picked a different yarn because this one's already tangled for some reason. Thank you for the follow, Olivia. Thank you for the follow, Latina. Welcome in. Pull through 1, pull through 2, and by the end, guys, so the way I like to do things, I like to show technique first, and then always some kind of stitch or specialty technique that you can use in the future. So today we're going to learn how to color change by the end of this live. Like I said, we're going to be on here for about an hour, and I want you guys to learn color changing techniques as well. So bear with me if you already know how to do the basic stitches. This is just for those who don't know how to do that. So when I do get to that part, they know what we're talking about. Thank you for the follow, Gabby. All right, so this is what a 1-row single crochet looks like. So you see how it has it on there, and then you have that little braid, and then you see how it's braided at the bottom too. So you can't, if I was to just end this right now, you wouldn't be able to tell which one was the original foundation row without that tail being there. That's why I like to do it in that back row, because it looks so much more polished in my opinion. But again, everybody has their, preferences and techniques and things. All right, so you guys, I'm about to switch my yarns really quick because this one I got it all types of messed up. So give me 1 minute. Hello, Gracie, welcome in. We'll go with gray. Let's do some gray. And this is a perfect opportunity. If you do have additional colors that you want to work with, go ahead and go grab them now. Because like I said, we are going to be learning color changing today. So you're going to want to have that second color on hand when we get to that part, okay? I'm going to just do my chain real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and then do 1. Does anybody have any questions for me right now while I'm getting caught up here? I do. I have a question for y'all. How long have all of you guys been crocheting? Thank you for the gift, Mama G. Welcome in, welcome in. And if you guys missed the beginning here, I was talking about the importance of yarn. Thank you for the treasure box. Yarn to hook ratio. As you can see here, I have my hook is a J hook. It's a 5.75. And I typically use this for pretty much any project I am. It's my favorite hook because you can tell literally like the writing, you can't even see it on there anymore. It used to say J 5.75 millimeter, but I typically like this one because I feel like even with weight 3 yarn, it works really well. It makes it a little bit looser for like those summer kind of flowy projects, but I feel with the type of yarn that I use, it's really good. Unless it's a really bulky yarn, then of course I size up by a lot. But other than that, that's my favorite. I don't know how long ago I started, but I've been consistently doing it since January. Awesome. I love that. And I do appreciate you for coming in. I've been wanting to do a class like this for so long, and I'm just happy that we were able to do it today. All right, there we go. So I made it with my gray yarn here. All right, so next we're gonna do a what's called a half double crochet. I don't know what they call it in the UK because they have different names for the different stitches, but in the US we call this a half double crochet. So when you get to the end of your row, again, this is also a preference. Some people just like to just turn their work and then just start immediately, but me, I like to chain and then turn my work because I feel like it creates a better edging for more polished and finished work. Thank you for the follow, Reyes Crochet. So that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to chain one and then turn my work. Now, again, remember, we're not going to be working into this crochet, this chain right here. We're going to be working into this work. This chain only serves as a purpose to make a finer edging. What am I making? I'm not making anything right now. I'm just showing, I'm doing a beginner's crochet class. So everybody can just, learn how to craft and do basic stitches and learn how to color change and things. So yeah, we're just doing learning today. All right, so we're gonna do our half double crochet, right? So we're gonna wrap it around first. Like with the single crochet, we just stuck it through. No, we're gonna wrap it and then we're gonna stick it through this time. So you're gonna go through, stick through. So you should have 1, 2, the stitch on there, and then you're gonna use this part, the yarn, to wrap around your hook to pull through 1. And you should have 1, 2, 3 loops on the hook from here on out after you wrap it around and pull through 1. Then you're going to wrap it around again and pull through all 3 of the hooks. And as you can see here, it kind of makes it a little bit taller. So the half double crochet is just like a step taller than what the single crochet is. Thank you for the follow, Serena. So I'm going to show you guys again. We're going to wrap around first. Then we're going to stick it through the next stitch. Wrap around, pull through 1. 1, 2, 3. Gonna wrap it around and pull through all 3. And when you're looking through these stitches, guys, you can see how it has that braid effect. Like how, remember, we were talking about at the bottom, it has a braid. There's different ways that you can really create effects with this. So right now I'm sticking it through both of these to make it like an even kind of look. But if you wanted to do some kind of ribbing or have like an edged kind of look, you can always go through just one of the loops, like a front loop or a back loop, and it'll create an edge. So let me show you what that will look like. Let's do a front loop here. I'm going to wrap it around, stick it through, pull through 1, and then wrap it around and pull through 3. And I'm going to show you really quickly. You can't really see it here. Let me do a couple of them. Hold on. Just so you can see the difference. I don't know if you guys can see that here. So you see where the first 2 I did were regular, and then now with just doing it with the front loop, it has like a line here. That's another way if you want your work to look a little bit more textured. That's a simple way that you can do it. You can do front loop, you can do a back loop. It'll just transition it to the other side. So depending on what side you're doing it, that's going to give you the effect that you need. But this is what it'll look like, a solid look if you're doing it through 2 loops and then through 1 loop. So if you're ever wondering how to get that edging look, you can always do it that way. So I'm going to take that out. I'm going to go ahead and follow through and do the base look again. We are wrapping around the hook once, going through, pulling through 1, wrapping around, pulling through 3. Does anybody have any questions about that? Thank you for the follow, Meredith. Thank you for the follow, Leslie. Thank you, thank you. Thank you for the rose. Ooh, there we go. And the likes. I appreciate it, guys. Thank you, thank you. Again, half double crochet, and you'll see a lot of works. I feel like a lot of works with like shirts and shorts and some skirts, they have a lot of half double crochet stitching, and you can always tell what it is because it'll say HDBC. That's how you know that's the abbreviation for half double crochet, is HDBC. All right, so we have our single crochet row, which is this row right here, and then we have our half double crochet row, which is this right there. And another benefit to that ribbing look, like if you're ever having a difficulty like counting the rows, that ridge makes it a little bit easier because you could just count by the ridge and see where you're at, how many rows you've done. With this one, it's kind of hard to tell. You have to like really look at it, like the line, the middle line here. But typically, you know, with that rib look, you can really see how far you've done. Excuse me. Thank you for the follow, Alexis. All right, guys. So this one, now I'm gonna show you how to do a double crochet. So instead of chaining one, we're gonna actually chain two because this stitch is a little bit taller. Okay, so we're gonna chain one, wrap around, pull through, chain two, and then we're gonna turn our work. And the reason why you chain two first and then do the crochet is because, like I said, the chain twos do not serve a purpose as a stitch. They're merely there just to create a fine edging. So we're gonna wrap it around like we did with the half double crochet. We're gonna pull, or not pull, I'm so sorry. We're gonna go through the stitch, wrap around, pull through one, wrap around, pull through two. So we still have two more on the hook, wrap around and pull through the last two. So you see how this one is a lot taller than these ones? That's what we call a double crochet. This is where you'll see majority of the patterns that you do more than likely deal with double crochet. If it's not double crochet, then it's single crochet. Those are the MVPs for pretty much anything. Thank you so much for the gift. Thank you for the rose. Excuse me. So I'm gonna show you guys that one more time. I'm gonna show you again. So we're gonna wrap it around, stick it through the stitch, wrap around the hook. You're gonna pull through one, gonna wrap around, pull through two, and wrap around and pull through the last two. Double crochet. Do you teach crochet all the time? Actually, I'm going to be teaching every Sunday a beginner's class. So this one is the very first one. So welcome in. Congratulations, you're here. But yes, every Sunday I'm going to be teaching how to crochet. And worst case scenario, if you miss anything, I'm putting all of these live uploads on my YouTube channel too. So you can watch them again, or if you have questions, or if somebody else asks questions, you can, kind of learn on there as well. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and do it again. You wrap it around one, stick it through, pull through one, wrap around, pull through two, wrap around, pull through two. Thank you for the follow, DP Vampire Girl. And I really like double crochet only because it's that perfect in between, like especially when it comes to blankets, it gives you that airy space to breathe with, but it also gives you like that length that you need too. So if you don't want to be crocheting too long, like it does fill a blanket a lot faster than what a single crochet would do, or even just a half double. But that again, that's just personal preference. Me and double crochet are like this, so most of my works I use that stitch. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish off this row. Remember, we're wrapping around, sticking through. We're gonna pull through two, wrap around, pull through two. That's why we call it a double crochet, two, because we're doing that twice. And don't forget, sometimes when you're going through your work, it's easy to forget this last stitch here. Looking forward for the lessons. Yay! Yes, Bunny. Every Sunday at 7, we are going to be doing lessons. Straight stitch. Yep. So making sure it stays straight. So remember, if you're ever confused as to where you ended off, I highly recommend getting stitch markers. And if you're a beginner, and you need to mark that last stitch to remind you, hey, let me put a crochet in there, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, yes, it may take some time, but if, you know, in the grand scheme of things, it'll make your work go and look a lot better. So we're going to go ahead and get that one finished off, and this is where we have, so far the first row single crochet, second row we have the double crochet, and then the last row we did so far has been the double crochet. So you can kind of see those staggering differences there. This will be the back side or the wrong side, depending on what pattern you're reading. All right, and then the last basic stitch I'm going to show you guys is the treble crochet. So this is the tall girl. She's going to be the tallest of them all, okay? We are going to actually chain 1, 2, 3 this time. Ooh, yay, somebody bought a pattern. So you're going to chain 3 this time. And with the treble crochet, she is very demanding. She's very yarn consuming, but there's a lot of pretty patterns that come with the stitch, especially when you want those tall works. So how we're going to do this is we're going to wrap around twice instead of once. We're going to go in to the stitch like we've been doing. Going to wrap around the hook, pull through that first one, wrap around, pull through 2. So you should have 3 on there. You're going to wrap around, pull through 2 again, and wrap around, pull through 2. So basically you're pulling through 2 3 times, which is what the treble crochet is. Right, Roxy? Period. We love that sound over here. And so that's how you create that treble crochet. So as you can see here, she's very, very tall. And again, if you're trying to get your work done and you're trying to finish off, treble is not a bad option for a stitch to use. So let's do it again. We're going to wrap around twice, go through the stitch, pull through, wrap around, pull through 2, wrap around, pull through 2, wrap around, and pull through 2. All right. Pretty self-explanatory. Is basically each one kind of plays on each other, like double crochet, half double crochet, single crochet. They're very, easy stitches to learn. They're kind of repetitive. They're just, you do more than the last one pretty much. So this one, you're just basically pulling through 2 each time, 3 times. Double crochet, you're pulling it through 2 times. Thank you for sharing the live, Jenny. Thank you. Oh, yay! The live is 50%. The live goal is 50% completed, guys. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Good evening, Carmen Crochet. So you can see here. And then again, once I get this squared, this will be a little bit more straighter here. But yes, this is what the stacking looks like. We have the treble, double, half double, and single. So you can really see the difference in the tightness as well. So that's something to consider when you're doing and working with different yarns as well. What pattern you're wanting to do. How spacey do you want it? Do you want it to have some room for breathability? Do you want it to be loosey-goosey up here, or do you want a tight girl? So that's going to be a determination of what kind of, project you're making. What am I crocheting? I'm actually not crocheting anything right now. I'm just teaching basic stitches. And then I'm also going to be showing you guys how to color change as well. Yes, very beginner friendly crochet class. So you guys can start crafting to your heart's content. Good evening. Good evening. Welcome in, guys. Welcome in. Thank you for the follow. And we're going to be doing these every Sunday at 7 o'clock. And we're going to be building on each other. So today we're talking about the basic stitches and everything. Next week, you know what? Since you guys are here, what kind of things do you want to see? As a beginner crocheter or even the intermediate, what techniques are you having difficulty with that you would like to learn? Thank you for the follow, Mrs. Jones. Thank you for the follow, Alphaletta. I know I'm definitely going to show everybody about the magic circle and how to work in rounds. next week as well. Granny squares. I knew someone was gonna say it. We could do granny squares. All right, we'll add in granny squares as well, which is perfect because we're learning how to color change, so we could color change for granny squares next week. Welcome. Thank you for the follow, B. Yay. So let me finish this row of treble. Do we have any questions about what we learned so far, about any stitches? Do you guys want me to go through again? Me and Granny Squares don't get along. Listen, me and Granny Squares just started getting along because I figured out you don't have to do the basic Granny Square with everything. You can do design Granny Squares. So I like the designed ones. I don't like the basic ones anymore. It's just the sewing them together for me. I'm just getting started and I don't quite know how to go from 1 to 2 rows. Okay, we can go ahead and go through that. All right, so this is what a little swatch I have so far, just showcasing the different stitches here. All right, so Colleen, you said you needed help going from 1 to 2 rows. So let me ask you this. Did you just chain a row and then you're trying to figure out which stitch to start in from your chain row? Is that the stage you're on? Okay, cool. All right, let's go ahead and show ya. Thank you for the follow, Alexa. All right, so let me go ahead and chain 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We'll just chain 10 for now. So I don't know if you were here in the beginning, but I was saying I recommend whenever you have a pattern that has like a certain chain row, I always recommend chaining one and then turning, just so that way you can have, that extra side to the polished work. And depending on what kind of stitch you're doing, you either wrap it around ahead of time or you just go straight into it. So let's say I just did the 10. I'm gonna go ahead and chain 1, and I'm not going to crochet into this chain 1 space. I'm gonna crochet into this one. So we're gonna skip this one and we're gonna go straight into the second one and then do the single crochet from there. And that always makes it easier when you give yourself an extra chain space. You never have to worry about, messing up the space that you're going to be in, right? The count that you're supposed to be in. Because if you count it, and if I finish out here, it's still going to be 10, even with that extra +1 that I did. Now, I did just turn and go straight into that loop. Another way that you can create a more sound foundation chain, which is, something that I've been doing lately. Let me start over. Can I do a magic circle? Absolutely, Ice Spicy. I can do a magic circle. Let me finish with Colleen on this one, and then I'll do that one. So let me go back to my 10, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, so I'm going to chain 1. And what I've been doing lately is I've actually been turning the work and working into the back bumps of the braid instead, because now I have a braid at the bottom and a braid at the top. And if I'm going around and doing like a project or something, it makes it easier to kind of get into those grooves a little bit when I'm doing my finished edging. So that is also another way that you can create a second row, is turning it around and going into these back bumps right here, the booties of the stitch, if you will. Hello, Queen Jules. Thank you for the follow, Patricia. Thank you for the follow, USAF. All right, so Ice Spicy, you said, can I do a magic circle? Absolutely. So this one, bear with me, guys. This one I have to really think about because I kind of forget. Let me take my rings off because I need my fingers for this one. All right, so how I do the magic circles here is I get the edge of the yarn and I stick it between my pinky and my ring finger, palm up. Okay, so I do it this way. And when you wrap it around, you want to wrap it around your hand in this way, so that way it's parallel, and create an X in the back. So when you're doing it, it's parallel up here, but then you kind of turn it so that way it creates an X. And then I use that same pinky to hold it. Thank you. That helps. You're so welcome, Colleen. Now, this part is a little tricky, so I'm going to try to do it slow. You first stick your hook through this first one, right? Then you're going to pull this second part through, lift it up, and then you kind of got to just like slide your hand out. Just make sure the tail stays there. You could make a longer tail if it's easier for you, but I don't like long tails. And then once I get my my circle kind of comfortable, then I just create my single crochet from there. And then you can kind of just like work into the circle as you see fit. So crochet, whatever, let's say I crocheted a lot, and then just close it that way, and then you can close it. But I'm not a fan of magic circles. I'm not gonna lie to you. They kind of, I'm gonna do it again because I know it was a lot of steps. I prefer the chain 4 method, but you know, I do see the benefits of magic circles because they are very clean and it does close up that hole very tight. So I will say it does help that way. Thank you for the follow, Stempin, for fun. So again, if you're wanting to do a magic circle, I'm going to make a longer chain this time. Stick your tail between your pinky and your middle or your ring finger, palm up. You're going to make a, get out of the way, tail. Going to make a parallel here and then a cross in the back. And use that same pinky to hold the cross. So we're going to go ahead and go under this first. Use the hook to pull the second one. We're going to turn it up. Scoochy booch your hand out of there. Try to hold the base of it so it doesn't get all, you know, wonky somewhere through. And like when I hold it, I always hold my yarn, like I wrap it around my finger and like kind of grip it with my last fingers like that, just to kind of get it comfortable. And then I switch my fingers and stick these fingers through to kind of make that chain a little bit. And it's gonna be uncomfortable at first because it's a loose circle. I always make my circle really, really big because most of the time, like, I'm having trouble controlling the yarn. But once I get like a couple single crochets in the circle itself, then I do tighten it up a little bit, and then, you know, I can really get my fingers in there to hold it right. But like I said, I'm still like learning to get comfortable with the magic circle. I'm not gonna even lie to you. It's not like, you know, the easiest thing in the world, but once you get it, it makes it simple. And like I said, let's say this is the amount of crochets I had to do. All I have to do is just pull this little tail part, and then it closes up that loop, and then I can single crochet and start working in rounds. So it's not bad. It's just it takes a minute to get used to. But good question. We have any more questions about the stitches or anything before we get into color changing techniques? Thank you for the follow, Judith. All right, so let's go ahead. Let me get some foundation in here somewhere. That was cool. Thank you for the follow. I'm glad you liked it. Yes. And if you guys ever have any questions or want to inquire about certain things, let me know for sure. I don't mind asking. That's what these classes are for. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and try to get a row of single crochet in here. Now, when it comes to color changing, there's different ways that a lot of people like to do it. Some people like to knot it in and then tie it at the end. Some people like to just weave it in. It's really up to what you're comfortable with. Me personally, I loathe weaving in my ends. Like if I can crochet my ends within my work, I am going to do it. Okay, so that's kind of the approach I typically take when I'm color changing because, like I said, I'm lazy. I don't like to weave them in. With that being said, let's say we have a row here and the next row starts a new color. So you see we finished here and we still have to do that chain one row and do over. Instead of chaining with this, what we're going to do is chain with this color here. So you can always either do a slip knot, stick it on here and chain with it and start working, or what I do, because I try to avoid as many knots as possible, I just wrap this around the hook. Here I leave this tail pretty loosey-goosey, pull it through, and then I'm going to turn my work. Now you're going to say, hey, Sarabi, how are we going to keep this yarn from unweaving itself? Well, that's where weaving in while you're crocheting comes into play. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay this tail along the side of my work. So when I'm going through the loops, I'm also going over this yarn place. So I'm going to show you that a little bit here. Let me tighten up this little gray piece. Let me grab the right, there we go. So now we're working with the pink. So let's say I have this spot right here. I have this tail right here. And I'm just going to crochet right over that tail all the way through my work. Oops, sorry about that. And what that does is it hides it and keeps it secure so that way it won't undo. So let's say you're working with a scarf or a blanket, it keeps it all the way on here. And I do this with all of my works. If there's like a little place where a tail won't fit, then I just cut the excess off. Like right now it's secure by this point, so I can technically cut this off, but why waste it? I'll just crochet it through if I can. And that way, instead of fully weaving in ends at the end, at the most, depending on how many colors I'm working with, I'm just really doing a trim job. So it's not like I have to weave in everything. Crochet through, and then we made it through. So now it's a clean right here. So we did that chain one here. We just started it. And now we have a new color on here. Very seamless. There's no extra knots. We still have that original one. You may have a tail for this one that you could weave in. Or if you want to weave this in with it and carry the yarn over, that's an option as well. It's really up to you. But, color changing, you just wrap it on there, add it in as if nothing else happened and just keep crocheting with it. Now, let's say you have a pattern, because if you're doing like tapestry crochet, sometimes, let me show you guys, you have works where you have to make a pattern. So there's color changes in the middle of the work. So I'll show you guys how to do that as well. This is so amazing. You did such a great job. Thank you so much, Miss Jenny. I appreciate the feedback. So let's say we have a pattern going on here. We're working a tapestry and we have to color change in this stitch right here. So what we do, whatever the pattern says for, we're going to do that. But on the last stitch that it asks for, so let's say this is the last stitch before we change the color, we're going to start the single crochet as normal. But instead of wrapping around with this yarn, hello, hi Rain. How are you? I'm gonna just introduce another color just to make it easy for you guys to see. Let me grab, I'm gonna grab this really quick because I didn't carry the gray over, so it's gonna look funny. All right, so what I do is I usually tuck this one over to the side so that way we have a side that we put all of our yarn on, and then we're gonna pull it through as normal and finish that stitch with the new color. So from there, we just start crocheting with the new color. Let's say it calls for 3. So on the third stitch, we start the single crochet, put it over to the side, and bring in that color that we had originally back around and pull it through. And now we have a pattern that we're working with where we're pretty much drawing but with yarn. And we're color changing inner all the way through. So that's typically when you do tapestry crochet, you're going to have a side that looks like this unless you're doing like the specialty kind where they cut the yarn. We could talk about that in a different video. This is very beginner level. But you're carrying over the yarn as you go, and now you have stitches. So how I like to show you guys, I'll give you an example of what I've been working on lately. So if you go on Pinterest and look up like Grafcans, you can draw pictures, guys, with yarn. All you have to do is just get the yarn stitches, go in between, and just follow the graphs through, and it creates the picture with the yarn that you're doing. And I'll show you guys again with this one here. So let's go through again. Let's say this time we're going to do 5 instead of 3. So I'm going to finish off this row with that pink. I'm going to crochet up 1, do 1, 2. So we're going to finish this color with that new one, that orange. And then sometimes this kind of goes in play. Like I said, I crochet tight, so it's better when you're doing this kind of crochet to crochet a little bit looser. Stick it through. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now you notice on this side, I didn't carry over the yarn over because we have this side on here. So this is what we call, I don't want to say it's the ugly side, but this is where all the behind the scenes is going on. This is where the picture is going to come to play. So you want to also make sure that you're paying attention to what side you're on. So the first time I carried it over in the front, now we're carrying it over in the back. So we can keep consistent to make sure the picture is also showing for the yarn. And we're going to finish it through. Of course, I picked the pink one that was, this one is already like stuck. I'll probably have to demonstrate with the gray. But yes, there we go. And now we have like what's forming a little bit picture with just color changing yarn on here. But yep, that's how you color change. Now there's another way where people do just tie in the yarn, just make a knot and then start crocheting that way. You can do that as well, but like I said, I try to avoid knots in works like this because if you're wearing it or if you wanted to survive the washer and dryer, you want to try to avoid as many knots as you can. Personally, um, this is so awesome. Yes, I'm glad you guys enjoy it. Let me know if you guys have any questions about what I just did here. I'm gonna undo this pink because it's taking out. I got to the point where it was stuck. So I'm going to take this out. Do we have any questions, guys? Do you want me to go over anything else again? So we did have some recommendations. Somebody says they want to learn granny squares. We can do that next week. We did a magic circle. Is there any other suggestions that you guys want to work on? Let me know. Let me know. Or a community project we can all work on together one day. Just all be on live crocheting. When going on Pinterest, go to the search bar and type in crochet moss stitch diagram. It will show. Follow live creator. Yes, Pinterest is your best friend, guys. Pinterest will show you all types of different graphicans, stitches, all types of really awesome things. Like this is what we're graduating to, okay, guys? This I'll let you guys get a little sneak peek. We're gonna get to a point where we're gonna learn how to do this stitch, the mosaic granny square. So learning how to do front posts, double crochets, and color change with the granny square, and either do it continuous or just do a bunch of squares to connect. But that's just a sneak peek of where we're headed for the time being. When doing a circle, can you please show me how to end and begin each row? Sure. That would be awesome. Crochet boxes. Yes. I can't wait. All right. So y'all let me know when is a good time to do crochet boxes because I always love those. Thank you for the follow, Black Sheep. You have a question? Okay. I asked so many people and no one has answered me, but I need it explained to me like I'm ignorant. Okay, no problem. So you're saying the magic circle, right? You want to do one round of the magic circle and then work into those rounds. Is that correct? You're still having trouble understanding how do you start a new row? Okay, yeah, absolutely, Miss Jenny. I can get to that there after I answer Britt's question. Thank you for the follow, Nikki. So, Britt, can you elaborate when you're asking about the circle rounds? Yes, but with a chain, not a spiral. Okay, absolutely. Let's do. I prefer the chain up method anyway, not with the magic circle. So, chain 1, 2, 3, 4. Is that what you're talking about? And then and then slip it stitching into here to creating the circle. Is that what you're referring to? Do, do, do. Yes, that's fine, but a new row. Okay. Yes. All right. So let's do a row of single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4. And really, I'm just going in this little hole that I was holding in and then pulling through and doing a single crochet that way. Where do you connect them? Okay. So this is where I recommend if you're doing a single crochet, it's kind of hard to see. What I would suggest is getting a stitch marker. So let's say, let me start off fresh here. And if you don't have a stitch marker, you can use some other yarn that you've been using, like a little short piece that you've cut off or something. So I'm gonna chain 2 just to make it tall. I would put it right in that front loop, because the deal is if you do like a back loop or if you do a full loop, it's not going to get in the way. My nails are getting in the way, guys. I'm sorry. I'm not used to, I've very much recently been wearing nails, so trying to get used to those with crochets. Let's say the row calls for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so let's say it calls for 6, and now you need to connect it. So when you go through, you can either do it through these two or do the one. Personally, I choose what the easiest one is. I always go through the one, the right on the top, and then I slip stitch through there to kind of create the circle. And then after that, then I go into doubles, or I go into either just a back loop, depending on what I'm making. If it's a stuffy, I'm going to go into back loops because I like to count the ridges. But um, you can always just connect with just that first one. Now, if you don't have a stitch marker, let's say you don't have that on hand, what you want to look for is a point where wherever you chained up, there's like a little, kind of hard to see with this color, but there's like a little thing right here where you can see where you chained up from the chain space. You want to look for that, and that's how you can tell what your stitch is and count to 2. So if you chained up like a double crochet, you most likely chained up 2, 1, 2, this V, this V. This is going to be where you put that single, that slip stitch in. If you chain up 1, then it'll be the first little V right here on the outside that you will put it in. Does that make sense? Oh, thank you for the heart puffs. Okay, I've been going into the one after that. Okay, yeah, so it's always gonna be that one right there. I hope that answered your question. Okay, we had another question. Let me scroll up here, guys. One moment. Still having trouble understanding how to start a new row. Okay, go through that again. Excuse me. Okay, so we are gonna slip stitch, not slip stitch. We are gonna make a slip knot. Maybe that's a little bit too tight. We're gonna wrap around, pull through, wrap around, pull through, and chain to however long you need to chain to. And whatever that number is, always add 1 at the end, or sometimes they'll say add 2 or add 3, depending on what you're working with. And instead of working into this one, right immediate from the hook, you're going to work into this second one. So if it's connected to the hook here, you don't want it. You want this one right here. That's second from the hook to start with your stitch. So wrap around and pull through 2. And then wrap around and pull through 2. And that's how you're going to start your second row. So with the foundation chain, you always want to make sure you're paying attention to the V's, because sometimes if you see that it's all twisted up or if it looks kind of disfigured, you can have a turning foundation line, and you don't want that. You want all the V's to be lined up like a braid, and just go into either the top, or in my case, sometimes I go into the back, depending on, what you're working with. For easy purposes, we're just going to go into this top loop here and go all the way through. And yes, this one right next to the knot, this does count as a stitch as well. Thank you for sharing the live, Glock Boy. I should have read your name before I said it out loud. I hope TikTok doesn't get me, but I like it. Thank you. Hello, Mary. Hello. Does that answer your question on how to start a new row? And once you get through all of the chains, you have this here. Now, one thing I will say, you want to make sure you get all of the stitches. Okay, so I don't 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yes, so you want to make sure you have all of the chains the next row going through. So I did 9 here. You want to never forget this last little It looks like it's not a stitch, but it really is. So you want to put something into that at the end of your row. And again, stitch markers are your friends. They have them at Dollar Tree now. You can get them on Amazon if you still shop there. Michael's, I know they have them, but you always want to put it there. Worst case scenario, if you don't want to buy stitch markers, you can always use the extra little piece of yarn that you can use to tie in. Like that's what my stitch markers were before I actually went ahead and bought some. Just to help you keep track, and that'll keep your project going straight, because sometimes it'll go wide or go in and you're like, what happened? It's because you're missing a stitch or you're adding stitches, so they should be going through all the way through. Where's the waters? Ask Daddy. I don't know where he put them. Thank you for sharing the live. I'll continue to practice. Can you keep going with this a few more rows, please? Yes, absolutely. I just made a crochet lava lamp, and I don't even have the basics down. A crochet lava lamp, girl, you're a master. How do you do that? Because like you have to do increases and decreases. You got this. That's awesome. But you know what? That's one thing that I love about this craft. There's always something to learn. Like there's always new techniques going on, and there's always new like patterns and fun things to learn with this. Like lately I've been really tapping into tapestry crochet, which is, the little project I was showing you. And I love it. I think that's probably where I'm going to pretty much be for the most part, is doing tapestry crochets and making fun pictures. Chain one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I still have my 9. I chain one. We don't do this chain, remember, that's just to keep the work even. And we're going into the next one. When in doubt, just count your row. Make sure you had the same amount that you started with. And you can always count by looking at the V's. It looks like a braid. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And if you need to count how many rows you've done, try to look for the inner lines right here. So you can kind of see where it starts. There's like a little mini inner line. You guys see that? You can count how many of those you have. So that'll separate 1, 2. So you go from front to back to start a new rope. Yep. So whenever you go through, you turn it, you chain one, and then you turn it and you go back and forth that way. You will always turn your work unless the pattern calls for otherwise. And typically in rounds, you don't necessarily have to turn, but when you're going straight front and back, it's you do it, chain one, and then turn. And it's the same for people who are left-handed. If you're crocheting, you'll still go this way and turn and then go back that way as well. Thank you for the follow, Tiffany. All right, guys, do we have any more questions? Was this helpful at all for anybody? I'm going to do one more, and then I do have to hop off.